Chào mừng quý vị đang quay trở lại với chương trình Tôi và Việt Nam trên kênh FBNC, và chúng tôi sẽ tiếp tục trò chuyện ngay sau đây với ông Stephen Wyatt, là giám đốc vùng của công ty Jones Lang LaSalle Việt Nam. Welcome back to the show again, Mr. Stephen. So during the time that you work here in Vietnam, what do you like most?
First of all, I think the people, I think as I mentioned previously, are fantastic, and we have a great set of people and working in Jones Lang LaSalle. So, I think people make living in a country very special and very, it makes life much easier when the people are very friendly and very open and very willing to learn. So the food, I do like Vietnamese food and are very partial to banh mi and maybe pho and some of the other Vietnamese food. So I think generally living standards here for expat is actually very easy compared to some of our friends, our other expat friends in maybe some of the other Southeast Asian cities like Bangkok or Jakarta or Manila. Ho Chi Minh is much easier to live. Generally the traffic in the other Southeast Asian cities is very poor. And it takes a long time to get around the city, and you can be stuck in traffic for a very long time. So here at the moment the traffic still moves fairly freely, and you can get to meetings quite quickly, and it's a very enjoyable place.
But in the other hand, have you ever feel fed up at all with anything that would make you feel regret coming here?
Yes, I think there's days when I can go home from the office and feel very frustrated, and I will go home to my wife and say, this I can't take,
Okay.
You can have a really good day one day, and then the next day is really bad, and there's no logic or no reason why it happens, but you can go through these very quick, very emotional sort of roller coaster. From a Western point of view, doing business, sometimes it's difficult to understand the logic of doing business, and it takes a lot of time to understand how Vietnamese, the mindset of a lot of Vietnamese work. So I think once you understand, and having been here for 6 years, I'm starting to slowly understand how some things work. Yes, I think the answer to your question is yes. There's days where I can be very frustrated, and we do, you wonder what you're doing here, but then the next day or maybe the next week, everything can be very good, and you win new work, and it's all forgotten.
Talk a little bit about the markets. Could you say that, of course, there are a lot of differences between the real estate market in Vietnam and compared to those in other countries. So what do you see are the main differences?
Vietnam is still very early stages of its sort of property market. So we only really saw the beginnings of the property market established in 1990. So we have 26 years of a property market in Vietnam. So compared to the UK, which is where I'm from, that's been developing property for hundreds of years, it's obviously a very new and immature sort of property market. So that creates problems in itself because of lack of legislation. The legal system is still trying to understand a lot of the intricacies of the property market, and so we still have a long way to go to improve the property market and the legal system and how business is carried out in property. And again, compared to the UK, there's a lot of legislation around protecting landlords and protecting tenants, and how you carry out business, and how you and how businesses like ourselves, how we conduct ourselves and carry out, business in a very professional manner. So all of those things will come to Vietnam, but in the future, and that will come as the market matures over time. So at the moment it's a very open market and everyone does, you know, everything, and you know, that's one of the frustrations, is there's lots of different people doing lots of different things, and no one really, there's no sort of structure to it.
It started to have more activities compared to a couple of years before. So do you agree, and do you think that the market is started to move now?
The market is much more active than it was 2 years ago. So we've seen since the end of 2014 a real increase in activity, and generally, you know, confidence has improved, sentiment, I think, has generally improved, and the economy's improved, most importantly. So, and the evidence is there for everyone to see. So we're seeing a lot of development activity at the moment. We're seeing a lot of residential sales transactions happening, probably record levels in Q1 of 2016. So our concern in the background is that there's still, the banking sector is still needs to be restructured, and there's still a lot of non-performing loans in the banking structure that haven't been restructured from the last cycle. So we're in a situation where a lot of non-performing loans have been put into the FBNC, and they still need to be sorted out, and that hasn't been done as yet. So, but overall, the general feel is much more positive. Like I say, foreign investors are very active in Vietnam at the moment because they see an opportunity, and I think the government has been very, very vocal and is really willing to work with more foreign investment in Vietnam, which I think is good, and I think will help to grow the economy even further.
Which segment of the real estate market that you see the most potential?
There's a number of different sectors. I mean, one sector which is getting a lot of attention is the industrial and manufacturing sector, both from a development point of view and from an occupier point of view. So all the trade agreements that have been signed off recently, the EU and the Korean and the ASEAN, and these trade agreements are really having an impact on the manufacturing and logistics sector. So that is one sector we expect to continue to improve over the next 5 to 10 years and beyond, because Vietnam now will be quite a critical sort of hub in Southeast Asia, and we're getting a lot of companies looking to relocate from China because the costs in China have grown. In addition to that, you will have seen recently about the acquisition of Big C by Central Group, and I think, again, the retail sector has lots of potential for growth as the Vietnamese, you know, their disposable income increases and middle income class grows. We will see a lot of interest into the retail sector. I think overall the government's actually doing quite a good job, and they are bringing in new legislation and new decrees on a fairly regular basis. As an example, the relaxation of the foreign ownership legislation that came in on the 1st of July last year, that has been very positive for the market, and to be honest, much more positive than I expected. We've seen an increase in the number of foreign investors that are buying residential apartments in Vietnam. That number has, so in the first 5 years of the pilot program, it was maybe only 150 to 200 people. But since the 1st of July last year, over 1,000 people have bought apartments, foreigners have bought apartments. There's still a long way to go. And I think just the procedure for foreign investment in Vietnam and going through, you know, to set up a company in Vietnam and getting your necessary licenses in place is still a very arduous process. It takes a long time to go through that process. So that needs to be shortened. And I think that will happen. And I think, again, new decrees are coming out. But what we find is when the government brings out a new decree, it takes a long time to filter down through the system, and actually, you know, the administration of working through setting up a new business actually takes a lot longer than what I think the government would like. So,
as an expert working in Vietnam, we would like to know how you adapt to life here in Vietnam, and we just take a little short break here, and the show will return.
thank you.
Thank you. Thưa quý vị, trong phần tiếp theo của chương trình Tôi và Việt Nam ngày hôm nay, chúng tôi sẽ tìm hiểu nhiều hơn về cuộc sống thường nhật của vị khách mời, đó là ông Stephen Wyatt, giám đốc Jones Lang LaSalle Việt Nam. Xin mời quý vị tiếp tục giữ màn hình.